There are rumors in the NBA world that expansion may occur in 2024 when media rights are set to be renewed. NBA Commissioner Adam Silver said expansion is inevitable, but may occur later than 2024. Rumors around expansion have mainly included the cities of Las Vegas and Seattle, but in this video, we will examine other potential cities that would be suitable for an NBA team. The logical next step for the NBA would be to go from 30 to 32 teams, but in time, they could eventually go to 36, maybe even 40 teams. The issue with expanding too much is the potential of diluting not only the product, but also the players. Currently, some teams don't have a guy or a star player on their team. With adding potentially 2 to 10 more teams, there might just be a handful of teams that aren't good for years on end because they don't have a player. As time goes on, though, with the international product of basketball increasing, not only in scale, but also skill-wise, and the addition of a revamped G League, in theory, players should become better over time, which means expansion makes more sense. Again, in this video, we will go over expansion targets for the NBA, and there are a lot of them. To start out, Fresno, California. The pro for Fresno is that it's a large city in California that doesn't have any other professional sports teams, and it has a good target demographic for the NBA, and it's also far enough from other California teams for it to feel independent and also not siphon potential other fan bases in California. The main issue, obviously, it is in California. With 4 teams already in California, the likelihood of Fresno getting a team would be low to slim, but could occur for relocation, say if Sacramento relocates, but they would definitely be a target city. Staying in California would be Anaheim, California. Putting in a team in Anaheim would be directly competing with the LA market, with not only the Clippers, but also the Lakers. There is already an arena there that they could use with the use of the NHL Anaheim Ducks. Back in 2011, the Sacramento Kings actually were looking into relocating to Anaheim, and were going to call themselves the Anaheim Royals. So if a team were to move to Anaheim, it more than likely would be relocation. Staying in California, another one would be San Diego. San Diego used to have 2 different franchises based there, with the San Diego Rockets and the San Diego Clippers. San Diego's only pro sports team out of the Big 4 are the Padres. So theoretically, this should have good support from a fan base standpoint and sponsorship standpoint, as the NBA is the flip side of the calendar compared to the MLB. The main issue with San Diego would be the city might not pay for an arena. As with the Chargers, you'd expect the owner would have to not only pay for the expansion fee, but also any arena costs or practice facility costs, basically all startup costs. Probably a relocation target, not an expansion target, but with it being kind of out of the realm of the LA area and the Bay Area, it'd be more, I guess, suitable compared to Anaheim and Fresno for an expansion team rather than relocation. South Carolina, and this would be either Greensville, Charleston, or Columbia. Each 3 areas have around the same population. South Carolina doesn't have a pro team. Because they don't have a pro team, they'd obviously have a fan base to cater to and should be able to get sponsors. Next up would be Omaha, around the same size as South Carolina. Metro areas just mentioned, just under 1 million. Omaha, again, is a city or a metro area that doesn't have any pro teams. They're far enough away from Minnesota to gather a fan base. And obviously be able to get a fan base probably from Sioux Falls as well, or South Dakota, Iowa, basically all the surrounding states. The main issue with Omaha is it's relatively small, not a lot of sponsorship opportunities. Next would be the Virginia Beach or Norfolk area. With an actual relatively larger population, they do have a decent size population. Their population is relatively wealthy or well off. Another thing to look at is they don't actually have a high-level college sports teams in the region either in that particular area. Obviously, they have Virginia Tech, but nothing in that particular area. The main issue with it would be kind of like San Diego, is they don't have a large arena in the area. Next would be Louisville, Kentucky. This is probably one of those mid-sized cities that would be more likely to get a team. Kentucky is rabid for basketball. The Kentucky Wildcats, who have been prominent in the college basketball scene for many decades. They don't have any other pro teams in the area. Granted, Indianapolis isn't too far away. Cincinnati are pretty close, but they would have a market to sustain the team. They also have an NBA-ready arena where the Louisville Cardinals play, so that wouldn't be an issue to start off. Next city is kind of out of left field, but it'd be Albuquerque, New Mexico. New Mexico has no pro sports teams, so they would have that advantage there from a mid-market team that they've had success with elsewhere. The population is around 900 to 1 million, so around the same as South Carolina or in Omaha. Probably on the low side for population, but they are a growing economy, growing sports area. They don't really have any other competition in terms of college either. Columbus or Cincinnati area. There's only one team in Ohio, which is in Cleveland, which is kind of surprising compared to maybe other sports where they have usually around two teams with the amount of big cities they have, but they only have the Cavaliers in Cleveland. Cincinnati might not be able to support a team as they already have the Bengals and the Reds, and then Columbus have the Blue Jackets for hockey. Louisville probably would have a better chance at getting a team than Cincinnati or Columbus. Both of those cities would be on the list. Going to the next state over to the east would be Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh actually has 3 of the Big 4 teams with the Pirates, the Steelers, and the Penguins. 2 of those 3 teams have done fairly well historically and recently with the Penguins and the Steelers. The real question with Pittsburgh is, can they support a 4th pro sports team? Going another state over again to the east would be Baltimore. The issue with Baltimore is the close proximity to other big, large cities. Obviously, DC is just to the south and the Philly right to the north. Baltimore already has Orioles and the Ravens. The NBA would cross paths with the Ravens, but they wouldn't be directly competing with the Orioles. Theoretically, they might have a chance to be successful there. Next would be Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay hosts 3 of the Big 4 with the Rays, the Lightning, and the Buccaneers. Tampa had a trial run during the 2020 and 2021 season with the Raptors temporarily staying in Tampa during the COVID year, similar to how Oklahoma City hosted the Hornets following Hurricane Katrina. So that trial run might lead Tampa to potentially getting a team in the future, depending on the results that the NBA saw. Next would be Kansas City. Kansas City has 2 pro sports teams already with the Chiefs and the Royals. With no hockey team, they should be able to garner fan interest. The other key component to Kansas City, not only obviously the size and the amount of fans and potential revenue bring in, is the fact that there aren't many teams in that area. There's a huge hole in the map in the middle of the United States where there are no teams, and Kansas City would be able to fill that void, along with this next city, which is St. Louis. St. Louis is a sports town through and through, with large dedicated fan bases for both the Cardinals and the Blues. They weren't able to keep a hold to the Rams, who moved to LA, but with an NBA team, they might be able to garner enough interest and support to support a team. Again, with a huge area of the map in the middle of the United States not having a team, St. Louis could definitely fill that void as well. St. Louis has nearly 3 million people in the area, could transition well to the NBA. Next would be Nashville. Nashville's a great city that's expanding not only from an economic standpoint, but also a population standpoint. They currently have the Tennessee Titans for the NFL and the Predators for the NHL. In recent years, they've had discussions with adding a baseball team. Nashville would be a shoo-in for the NBA with not only their current population, but also with it being such a tourist-heavy attraction as well. The main issue with Nashville, though, is with Memphis being so close and also in the same state. Does that work, or would you be diluting the fan base? Besides that, Nashville would be a great city to have an NBA team. Going outside the borders of the United States, Mexico City, Mexico. In recent years, the NBA has played several regular season games in Mexico City. They also established a G League team there in 2019. Mexico City has a large population. Its market is untapped. From U.S. sports pro teams, but there's been talks around other leagues as well on adding a team there. Adding Mexico City would push the brand of the NBA beyond the borders of the United States. But there are downsides, obviously, with locations being further away, international risk, stability risk. Going up north, Montreal, Quebec, Canada. Montreal has an NHL team, but no other teams from the United States. If they were to expand more internationally, such as with Mexico, Montreal would be a top candidate. However, with NBA, who knows if they would be successful? Obviously, Montreal's a large enough city to house a pro team. Profitability from a media standpoint would work as well. But who knows if players would want to play in Montreal. Staying in Canada, we go over to Vancouver, who used to house the Vancouver Grizzlies. Vancouver's a large city. Obviously, they were able to house an NBA team before, but they left pretty quickly. With such a huge size of the city, Vancouver would be a tie-in, not only from a financial standpoint, but also, media standpoint. The main issue with Vancouver is it's close to Seattle, which brings to the next point, adding a team in Seattle again as well. So Seattle would be another city. As mentioned before, Seattle would be almost a shoo-in for the next two cities of having expansion teams. Seattle lost the Supersonics back in 2008 to Oklahoma City. Seattle had a great run back in the day when they did have a team. It was a great population, a lot of Fortune 500 corporations, and the fans want an NBA team back. Not only do the fans of Seattle, if you ask a lot of people that are NBA fans, they want the Seattle Supersonics to be back as well. And the NBA itself also wants the Supersonics back as well. And last and not least would be Las Vegas. Las Vegas has been booming and popping over the last few decades, not only population-wise, but also money-wise and sports teams-wise. The NFL just had the Raiders relocate there. The Oakland Athletics are looking to relocate. The WNBA has a team there now with the Aces, who just won their first title this year, along with discussions with re-adding Seattle. There's been discussions of Las Vegas having a team, which would complete the 32 teams in the NBA. Las Vegas has ties to the NBA through the Summer League and U.S. basketball as well. The NHL added the Golden Knights. There's obviously a lot of money in Las Vegas, a lot of sponsorship opportunities, population's booming. Even if you don't have a good fan base for your team, it's such a tourist attraction for Las Vegas that you're going to have other fan bases come in and watch the games, so there won't be an issue there. But you'd obviously still grow your fan base with the amount of population that Las Vegas has. Depending on how many teams they would have, you'd split up the conferences and divisions different ways. From a near future standpoint, you'd look at 32 teams with the expected teams to be located in Las Vegas and Seattle, which means you'd probably have Memphis, Minnesota, or New Orleans switch over to the Eastern Conference. As you'd add 2 new teams to the Western Conference, you'd have to move one of those teams over. And then from there, you might have to change the divisions to probably 4 times 4. So you'd have 4 teams of 4 in each conference, or you'd have 8 teams of 2. So 8 teams in 2 divisions in each conference. Potentially add more playoff games as well. Reduce the amount of in-season games. What do you guys think of these potential expansion cities mentioned in this video? Do you think certain cities are above other cities? Would you recommend any other cities? Which ones and why? Do you think there's a certain amount of teams that the NBA should have or work towards? Let us know your thoughts below in the comments. Again, thanks for watching.